गुफरान साहब, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है. We are unable to hear your voice, sir. Ghufraan sir, we are unable to hear your voice.
Hello.
Yeah, now it is available.
Ji.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the last time. We were discussing about how to teach this chapter, and how to plan for that chapter, and how to implement that chapter on plants. So we were on day 1. We have divided this into 5 or 6 days of 5 or 6 sessions in which we will complete that particular chapter. Now, we discussed about several issues in that chapter. We move on. Now the question is that in the textbook it is mentioned that the trees, the plants, they provide shelter for the birds. For an example, birds build nests in the trees, so it provides shelter and it's a home for the birds. So how do we introduce this particular idea among the students? As I've been saying since the last 2-3 sessions, giving a blanket statement that birds live in trees is not the right approach. We have to introduce it in a manner in which students can relate to, in a manner which will engage the students. So how do we go about doing that? Right. So before we go on and tell them that birds stay in the nests in the trees, we ask them, where do we live? Where do we live? Where are the homes of birds? This is the question that we have got to reach. So we begin with, where do we live? The reply to which would be, we live in homes. We live in a house. Very good. So we live in our house. So everyone lives in a house, in some home or the other. Where do birds live? And then you introduce the question, the idea that birds live in nests. And where are those nests situated? Nests are situated on the branches of trees, right? And then you can show them a picture, you can show them a clip, right? That okay, the birds live on the trees, in their nests, right? Similarly, you can extend this thing that where there are many trees, it's called as a forest, and where there are many trees. So we have got to introduce this concept that animals, wild animals, still live in forests, right? So trees are important because when you have lots of trees, you have lots of forests, you have homes for wild animals. So you ask them the questions: where do lions live? Where do tigers live? Right? When you've got to ask them this question: where do lions live? Where do tigers live? Do they live in their homes? In your home? Does the lion live in your home? Does the lion live in a shop? Does the lion live in the school? We know that lioness and tigress live in everyone's homes because, mashallah, everyone who is married who understands that lioness and tigresses live in their homes. but but what about lions and tigers? Where do they live? Right? So they live in forests. This is what we've got to teach them, right? And that is the reason why trees and plants are important, because where we have many trees, we have forests, and where we have forests, we have areas which become a habitat, a home for lions, tigers, and other wild animals. Right now, whatever we have done in day one, whatever we have covered in day one, we have to summarize it. Right? We have to summarize it because at the end of every session, giving them a summary is critically important. Right? You should never end your class without summarizing. So how do you summarize? What are the different parts of the trees? This we had taught them. So maybe we can draw a labeled tree, a diagram of a tree on the board. Maybe we can bring in the students to do that. We can include or involve the students in drawing the different parts of the tree and name that tree. Right? That is how we summarize the unit that you have taught on day one. What else you taught on day one? What are the things we get from trees? We discussed many things. We discussed bamboo, we discussed rubber, we discussed paper, we discussed fruits, we discussed flowers. All of these things we get from trees. Maybe you can hang little bamboos and little fruits and flowers from the trees, right? Little things, right? Pictorially showing them, reminding them, so that they can recall easily these different things that you get from trees. Then what other things we learned in the first session on day one? What is the impact of trees on climate? Right. So using a mind mapping tool on the whiteboard or the blackboard, whatever you have, you can draw that what are the impact of trees on the climate. That we discussed about oxygen and carbon dioxide, the exchange of these gases with because of the trees, and how the trees inhale a particular gas and exhale a particular gas, right? And it makes the atmosphere cool, it gives shade, right? These are things that you can draw with a mind map, right? The impact of climate, of trees on the climate. You can draw a mind map, and that mind map will be describing what is the impact of trees on the climate. Then what is the impact of trees on the animals and birds, right? This is another thing that we can discuss with the use of a mind map again, right? That animals get fruits to eat, birds get fruits to eat, and they get shade. They live in the trees. Birds make nests in the trees. These are terms that you can utilize, that you can write down on the white blackboard in your classroom in the form of a mind map. This is how you summarize what you had learned. Now, the thing that every teacher does is give homework, right? But the idea of homework, we think, is just written work. Written work is homework. At the end of the chapter, we give loads of homework to be written down in the notebooks. But homework is not just that. Yes, certainly writing work is a part of this homework, but that's not just that. Homework could be different. Homework could be beyond the notebook, right? You can give them activities as homework on day one. At the end of the first session on day one, we can give them different. You can make different sets of students, and you can tell them different students to bring different parts of plants, or different types of leaves, or different types of little pieces of branches of trees. Right. This is an activity we can give them. You can give them the activity as homework. Count the number of trees in the school campus, or count the number of trees in your colony, in your home where you stay, or count the number of trees on your street where your home is situated, on the street where your home is situated. You can give them this kind of homework, something which they can get, something which will help them get connected with the trees, something which will make them observant, right? It will increase their observation skills, right? Now we move on to day two, second session. What happens in the second session? To begin with, what do we do? Right at the outset, what do? We don't start with the remaining part of the chapter. We do a unit recap of the previous day, of the previous session. And recap is important. What we learned yesterday, right, about the things we get from trees, the impact on climate, shelter for animals and birds, all of these things we learned. So we have got to recap in a very brief time period. We've got to recap, right? And then we've got to ask them about the homework, checking for the homework that was given. What was the homework? How many of you brought the different parts of plants? The different parts of plants you had told the students to bring. And how many trees are in the school campus or in your home colony or your street? This was the homework that was given. How many of the students have completed that homework? It was an activity-based homework. So this is something that you've got to do and check for the homework day one. Now, day two, we continue with the explanation of the lesson. And on day two, we will learn more about the needs of the plants, about the needs of the plants. Now, the plants need watering, right? Without enough water, the plants will die, right? So how do you introduce this concept that the plants need water? In the chat box, if anybody can type it out. How do you introduce the concept of plants need water? You need to water plants. How do you introduce that concept in the child's, in a second standard classroom? Yes, I'm waiting for a response in the chat box. What we have to introduce, that what plants need watering, trees need watering. My voice here, I can see that somebody is saying that my voice is a bit low. I am a little tired because I've been traveling since the last 2 weeks continuously. So I'm a little under the weather. So please tolerate the low voice a bit. So what gives you energy? Okay. Somebody says what gives you energy. We will get to energy. We'll get to energy, inshallah, when we talk about plants need food as well. But I'm talking about watering of plants. Allah. So the watering of plants, right? Because I am a little under the weather, it seems, because my voice is a little low, it seems that everybody is a little slow in typing out maybe. What do you do when you're tired? Okay, good. Interesting. What do you do when you're tired? You rest. You can ask them, do you ever feel thirsty? Do you ever feel thirsty? And what do you do when you feel thirsty? प्यास लगने पर क्या करते हैं? What do you do when you feel thirsty? And obviously the students will respond that when we feel thirsty, what do? We drink water, right? Similarly, all living things need water. Plants are also living things. So plants also need water. So how do they drink water? How do you drink water? Students will say that we drink water by a glass or by water bottle, whatever. So how do the plants drink water? How do they drink water? By cup, by glass, by water bottle? Have you ever seen a plant drinking water from its water bottle? No, obviously not. And then this is something that will be, you're adding live humor of it. When you say that, have you seen plants drinking water with water bottle, right? And the students will laugh, right? Because what you're doing, you're getting the students connected, right? You're cheering up the students every now and then. So the students will say, no, obviously plants don't drink water from a glass or a water bottle. So how do the students drink water? From where do they drink water? Then you can say that plants, we water the plants, right? You can show the pictures of the clips of watering the plants, or we can say that because of the rainfall, right? Because of the rainfall, plants get water, right? And plants can also get water through irrigation. Crops can also get water through irrigation, right? By human being watering them or through the rainfall. So you're now describing the different sources through which plants get water, right? But do we only drink water? Or do we also eat food? And the students will reply, yes, we eat food as well, right? Because what do we get when we eat food? The students will themselves reply that we get energy. So the way we eat food for energy, plants also need food. Similarly, plants also need food for energy. So where do the plants get energy from? Right? Where do the plants get their food from? And then you can introduce the concept that plants get their energy from the soil. From the soil, they extract nutrients, whatever is required for them. Through the roots, all of that energy, all of that food is taken up, right? And that food is prepared in the presence of the sunlight by the plants. Now, we've got to introduce the concept of, say, manure or fertilizers. We've got to introduce the concept of manures and fertilizers. Now, how do you introduce that concept? I wish you people can respond. It's a very interesting question. How do you introduce the concept of manure or fertilizers in the minds of the students? Obviously, we shouldn't say that we also give manure and fertilizers for the plants, full stop. No, that's obviously not the method. So how do you introduce the concept of plants get extra energy, right? You can ask them, where do we get extra energy from? By drinking milk, right? And in the milk, what do we put? The students will themselves start responding. We put Bournvita, or we put Horlicks, or we put Boost, or we put Complan, right? So with the milk, or with a chocolate milk or Bournvita milk, we get extra energy. So where do plants get extra energy from? Right? This is how you are relating the concept with their practical lives. Where do plants get extra energy from? They get extra energy from fertilizers or from manure, right? And then you can introduce the concept that nothing is wasted in the world. Even the excreta of animals becomes manure, and Allah has made this nizam where even the manure is being recycled, is used, right? So we use manure for providing extra energy for the students, sorry, for the trees. right? So this is how we take the chapter forward in trying to explain the different concepts of how to give them extra energy. Now, there is a concept wherein, say for an example, you should not give more than required fertilizer, that is harmful, or we should not give less than required fertilizers, that is also not sufficient. How do you introduce that concept? That don't give more than required fertilizers, that's harmful for the plants, or you should not give less, too little or no fertilizer or no manure to the plants, that's also unhealthy for the plants to grow. So you can ask them, how many of you drink milk? The students themselves will reply that we drink milk, we drink milk. You can ask them, how many of you drink 2 to 3 drops of milk? And the students will laugh. How can you just drink 2-3 drops of milk? Obviously, we drink more than that. Okay, then how many of you drink 100 glasses of milk? Then again, the students will laugh and they'll say, no. How can anybody drink 100 glasses of milk? Okay, so how much milk do you drink? Then students will say 1 glass of milk or 2 glasses of milk, whatever. So then you explain to them, like you drink only enough quantities of milk. Too little, 2-3 drops is not enough. Or drinking 50 glasses, 100 glasses is not possible. Right? So similarly, the way you drink enough quantity of milk, similarly, the plants need fertilizers in the right quantity, enough quantity, right? If you give too much fertilizers, it's harmful. And if you give too little, the product that the of plants give you won't be good enough, right? So these are the steps we pick, we take. These are the steps of explaining the chapter by slowly but and surely, gradually introducing the different concepts in a manner in which students can relate to. All right, I've already exceeded the time. We'll continue with this concept, with this process next time onwards, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khair. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Alhamdulillah, Ghufraan Sahib, really, it is a heartbreaking session. I don't know how to thank you for this effective lesson planning and effective teaching with suitable examples of plants, water, and everything. Really, it will be very impressive in the minds of your teachers. Inshallah, I will continue with your sessions in future. Thank you, Janab Ghufraan Sahib. Thank you. You have taken a lot of trouble in spite of your tiredness that you attended this session. Thank you once again. Thank you, sir. Jazakallah al-khaira. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanaka wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
And tomorrow we are having our session morning in Tamil.
Tamil session, yeah.
And